The Wonderful World of Isekais, from the romance-centered series to the action-centered series, has a ton to offer. But in my humblest opinion, it's the ones that focus on something else entirely that make for some of the best reads on the platform. Isekais! When a normal, everyday, ordinary person gets magically yeeted into a fantasy world. Usually a medieval magic-type world with monsters, swords, magic, kingdoms, kings and queens, and no phones. I'm not sure I'd survive. Like the absolute banger, The Greatest Estate Developer. This could easily be mistaken for the reverse isekai genre, when a fantasy world gets Control-C, Control-V'd onto a normal, everyday world. Series like the fantastic Omniscient Reader. Now, isekai and reverse isekai series tend to focus on the action or the romance, both of which make sense, but it can get a little basic from time to time. Watching either a main character use some special, amazing skills that they somehow acquired, or watching a main character somehow make royalty fall in love with them. But some of my personal favorite versions of this trope have some type of twist to them. Omniscient Reader, The Greatest Estate Developer, and the topic for today, the Academy's Undercover Professor. As the name suggests, we follow a professor at the magical and prestigious Korin Academy, Professor Ludger Cherish. But we kind of don't? Let me explain. I love school and especially teaching arcs in Webtoon and anime. There's just something great about having our main character teach others that's just really rewarding to watch. But that's only half of the title. The other part is what I really wanted to hone in on, that being undercover. That's right! This series isn't just an isekai about a teacher, but it's an isekai about a teacher who's a spy. I mentioned that our main character is Professor Ludger Cherish, but that's technically not entirely true. You see, we start our series on this steampunk type train, with Professor Ludger Cherish and this old dude named Gerard. While chatting, the train goes under attack, and when questioning the attacker, Professor Ludger Cherish dies. But that's our main character. He's the professor, right? He manages to escape somehow, right? Well, so far, no, not really. The series really pitches Ludger as the main character. Not only because the professor in the beginning teaser and the professor on the train look quite similar, but because he's a professor, you know? The series is called The Academy's Undercover Professor. The series also sets us up to think we're hearing his thoughts. Not to mention he seems strong, and he seems to know a lot as well. But we were baited. When Ludger supposedly dies, Gerard's mask is damaged. And when it's removed, that's when we get our main character. This is already so cool. We spent literally the entire first episode being tricked. We were played by our main character. It's this kind of spy, espionage, undercover work, and trickery that is super underrated and hard to find, but I love that kind of spies, undercover workers, espionage stuff. It's great, and this series turns it up to like 200. You see, to avoid explaining that he's a mercenary that switches his identity constantly, and that his other identity is on the paperwork to the police, which seems like a lot of work and could seem like it might kill him, while he accidentally assumes the identity of Professor Ludger Cherish himself. How you accidentally assume an identity, I'm not quite sure yet. Anyways, his situation only gets worse and worse, as he's escorted to the Korin Academy and given a 2-year contract to teach under the guise of the professor. But turns out the good old professor ain't exactly clean either, as a week before the new year starts, our main character, pretending to be Ludger, gets approached by a member of a dangerous secret organization, not to threaten or to fight him or to question him, but instead to check in, to ask where he's been and why he hasn't been in contact. That's right, Professor Ludger Cherish technically still is a part of this dangerous secret organization. Likely even a higher up in this society, due to how terrified this other member is of him. So not only is he trying to sneak around the eyes of a prestigious magical academy and the dangerous people within that school, whether it be the politics of nobles versus commoners, teaching a bunch of magically gifted students, or being under constant suspicion by the head of the academy, but he's also trying to fool an entire secret organization that's built on sneaking and fooling others. It's the combination of these fun, sneaking, bluffing, espionage moments that's super fun to watch, but what makes it an absolute blast is our main character's reaction and his attitude. Our main character, Ludgar, Gerard, Machiavellia, whatever you want to call him, Mr. Imposter over here has basically become one of my favorite characters. Like I said, this series is very much a spy thriller espionage kind of series. Who do you trust? Who don't you? What secrets will be revealed? That kind of stuff. This means that sus boy over here needs to make sure that he is as cool as a cucumber. He needs to survive multiple situations, multiple threats, and he does. Constantly taking advantage of any situation that arises, bluffing or tricking his opponents, co-workers, bosses, even the secret society members, lying straight to their face without them even doubting him. But just because we see his calm, cool decisions and we see the reactions of the other people when he makes these decisions, it doesn't mean he's all that calm and cool on the inside. Every single time a situation arises, we see him in a full-blown panic. These little moments of fear that overtake him make him all the more enjoyable to watch, but also all the more relatable. We're not watching someone who's gone into a new world with these overpowered skills and abilities, or we're not watching someone make royalty fall in love with them. Instead, we're watching someone who is honestly just like us. Yeah, maybe he has some better skills because he's been there for a while, but he's someone who fully starts to panic when some new situation or danger arises when he thinks he could finally rest. Like after mercenaries attack the train, he finally thinks he can rest, but then the police show up, and then he fools them, and then the Corn Academy professors show up, and then he fools them, and then the secret society members show up. Every moment is just one-upping each other, and these moments of, honestly, humanness, of anxiety, of stress, just a normal person's reaction, makes Ludgar an absolute blast, which honestly reflects the series, as it knows when to take itself seriously, but it also knows just to enjoy itself, just to have fun. Most of the characters are super fun to watch. The students are really enjoyable, the teachers are really cool. That one member of the secret society that keeps on appearing literally shines every time they're there, and I smile every time they appear. Everyone has their own personality, their own moments to shine. This series is the weirdest mix of secretive spy espionage and one wrong move could kill everyone, but also some of the funniest character interactions and personal moments I've seen in a really long time. Honestly, this series isn't great because it tries to shake things up, because it tries to be original or different, but because it has its own identity. It has its own story to tell. It's not weighed down by any tropes or any expectations. And it's an amazing read and an amazing addition to the isekai space. So make sure to check out the Academy's Undercover Professor, updating every week on Webtoon.